That old man only asked for an aisle seat because his knee still carried shrapnel from Vietnam. Instead of helping him, they shoved him into the worst seat on the plane, and no one said a word until the captain left the cockpit, Walter. Grayson stepped onto the plane with the quiet composure of a man who had endured more than life should ever demand. He was 78, with neatly cropped silver hair and a straight back that hadn't bowed to time. His worn Marine Corps jacket wasn't for show. It was a piece of his past he carried like a second skin. Today wasn't about duty or illness. He was flying to attend his granddaughter's college graduation, the brightest point in his later years. He had specifically requested seat 14C, an aisle seat, not out of convenience but because a piece of shrapnel still lodged in his right knee from Vietnam made it painful to sit cramped. Walter never complained. Like his service, he bore the discomfort with quiet dignity. But this flight, and how people treated him, would tell a different story. Walter had just set his worn backpack under the seat when a polite but firm voice spoke beside him. "Excuse me, sir, I'm Megan Torres, the lead flight attendant on this flight," she said with a professional smile. "We have a special situation. There's a family of 3 who need to sit together. Would you be willing to give up this seat for them?" Walter looked up, his kind eyes meeting hers. He wasn't angry or harsh. He furrowed his brow slightly and calmly replied, "I booked this seat because my right knee was seriously injured during the war. It's difficult for me to sit long in a spot where I can't stretch my legs." Megan nodded, showing understanding, but the firmness in her voice did not waver. "I'm very sorry, sir. This is a priority situation. We've rearranged seating and asked that you move to seat 32B. Seat 32B, a middle seat squeezed between 2 strangers. No armrests, no aisle access nearby. No space for the aging knee that had once been torn apart by shrapnel at Khe Sanh years ago." Walter said nothing more. He simply nodded, slowly stood up, grabbed his backpack, took small, steady steps, just like the many marches from his old days. No one on the plane spoke up. No words of support, no glances of sympathy. As he sat down in seat 32B, his back still straight, his eyes looking forward, there was no anger, no resentment. Only a quiet sadness drifting through the eyes that had seen too much for the young people on this flight to ever understand. Walter sat quietly in the cramped seat, his knee aching sharply every time he tried to move it. The stifling atmosphere inside the narrow airplane cabin only added to his discomfort, but no one around seemed to notice. The passengers nearby were all staring down at their phone screens, scrolling through news, games, or social media, completely unaware of the presence or suffering of the old man beside them. He felt an overwhelming loneliness amidst the crowd, like a silent ghost existing without anyone wanting or remembering him. No eyes met his, no words of concern were spoken, only a deep, all-encompassing silence surrounded him. The pain in his knee combined with the feeling of abandonment made Walter want to sigh, but he knew that showing weakness wouldn't change anything. He remained silent, enduring the pain and loneliness patiently, just as he had endured countless challenges during his years of military service. Outside, the flickering lights from phone screens illuminated the faces of the younger passengers, lost in their virtual worlds and oblivious to the reality around them. Walter seemed like a fading memory, left behind by time and society. Yet despite being unnoticed, he kept his back straight, his eyes deep and steady, and his spirit strong and unyielding amid the crowd's indifference. Julia Bennett sat quietly a few rows away, her eyes fixed on the unfolding scene beside her. She noticed everything, the way the elderly man was shuffled from his seat, the pained expression he barely concealed, and the cold indifference of the other passengers. But she didn't pull out her phone to record or share the moment online. Instead, Julia chose a quieter, more thoughtful approach. With a calm but determined demeanor, she discreetly typed a message to a friend who worked within the airline. She knew that witnessing such treatment wasn't something to broadcast for social media likes or views. It was a serious matter that deserved attention from those who could make a difference behind the scenes. Her message was clear and concise, describing what she had observed without exaggeration or drama, hoping that it might prompt someone within the company to intervene, or at least take note. Julia's silence was not from apathy, but from respect. She understood the power of discretion and the importance of action over spectacle. While the rest of the cabin seemed absorbed in their own worlds, Julia remained attentive, a quiet witness to an injustice that many chose to ignore. Her role was small but significant, an unseen guardian who chose to stand up in her own way, providing a voice where there was none, and ensuring that the elderly veteran's experience would not go completely unnoticed. In that moment, Julia Bennett became more than just a passenger. She became a silent advocate, embodying empathy and quiet courage amidst the impersonal bustle of air travel. As the airline's internal system quietly relayed the message up to the cockpit, Walter Grayson sat still, his head bowed slightly. The hum of the plane faded into the background as his mind drifted back to a distant time, a war zone filled with chaos and loss. Memories of his fellow Marines, friends who never made it home, surfaced vividly in his thoughts. The faces of those comrades flashed before him, mingling with the sharp sting in his injured knee, a reminder of the battle wounds he carried long after the fighting had ended. The pain in his leg pulsed sharply, but Walter remained silent, neither complaining nor drawing attention. He had learned long ago to endure hardship quietly, to bear suffering with dignity. His eyes, though weary, reflected a lifetime of resilience and sacrifice. He wasn't just a passenger on this flight. He was a man shaped by decades of struggle, carrying invisible scars beneath the calm exterior. Around him, the airplane's routine continued, but inside Walter, a storm of emotions quietly brewed: pride, sorrow, and a deep sense of isolation. The knowledge that help was on the way, discreetly signaled to the crew, offered a small comfort. Yet he understood that healing, whether from wounds of war or the indifferent treatment he faced now, was a slow process, often marked by silence and endurance. In that moment, Walter embodied the strength of a generation that had faced far worse than an uncomfortable seat. The pain was real, but so was his quiet courage. Without a word, he braced himself, ready to face whatever came next with the same steadfast spirit that had carried him through the darkest days of his life. Captain Ethan Marshall, a seasoned Air Force veteran with 23 years of flying experience, was seated calmly in the cockpit when the internal alert came through. The message detailed the situation involving Walter Grayson, an elderly passenger who had been moved from his assigned aisle seat to a less comfortable middle seat despite a serious knee injury sustained during his military service. Instantly recognizing the gravity of the matter, Ethan's face grew serious. His years of military discipline and empathy for fellow veterans sharpened his awareness. This was not just a routine passenger complaint, but a matter of respect and dignity. Without hesitation, Ethan made the decision to leave the cockpit and personally intervene. The cockpit door slid open, and with steady, purposeful steps, he moved toward the cabin. Ethan's mind raced through his own experiences in uniform, the countless times he had witnessed the unspoken bonds of brotherhood and the sacrifices made by men like Walter. He understood how deeply such an incident could wound a veteran's pride, and how silence often masked a profound hurt. His resolve strengthened. As he reached the main cabin, Ethan surveyed the situation quickly but thoroughly. He saw Walter sitting quietly, the pain visible in his eyes, but met with quiet endurance. Nearby passengers appeared indifferent, absorbed in their phones or conversations, unaware of the injustice unfolding. The flight attendants, polite but firm, had tried to manage the seating arrangement, perhaps unaware of the full context behind Walter's request. Ethan approached Walter gently, introducing himself with a calm but authoritative tone. He reassured the elderly man that his situation was understood and that he would personally ensure Walter's comfort for the remainder of the flight. His presence alone seemed to lift a small weight from Walter's shoulders, a sign that respect had been restored. Back in the cockpit, Ethan's actions demonstrated that leadership extended beyond flying the plane. It was about protecting the dignity of every passenger on board. His intervention sent a clear message. Veterans like Walter deserved more than mere acknowledgement. They deserved honor. The cabin atmosphere shifted subtly, the air charged with renewed respect as the flight continued under Ethan's watchful eye. In that moment, Captain Ethan Marshall wasn't just a pilot, he was a guardian of principles, bridging the gap between the past sacrifices of a generation and the present demands of humanity in the skies. Captain Ethan Marshall walked over to row 32, where Walter Grayson sat silently in the uncomfortable middle seat. He stood tall and solemnly raised his hand in a military salute, a gesture full of respect and solemnity. Immediately, the atmosphere in the cabin shifted, becoming quieter and more reverent than ever before. Every passenger's eyes turned toward them, sensing the seriousness and honor in that moment. Ethan's voice was calm and clear as he declared to the entire plane that Walter Grayson was not just an ordinary passenger, but a hero, a veteran who had sacrificed and served his country. He emphasized that this flight could not continue if someone like Walter had to endure sitting in such an inconvenient seat, especially given his serious medical condition related to war injuries. Ethan's statement silenced the cabin with no one speaking, only feeling a deep respect for Walter. Then Ethan looked directly at Walter and asked him to return to his original seat, 14C, the aisle seat Walter had chosen for health reasons. Walter's eyes showed a mix of surprise and gratitude as he slowly rose and made his way back to his spot. When he sat down, the atmosphere softened, like a release from the injustice he had endured. Passengers around began whispering, many looking at Ethan with admiration and giving Walter newfound respectful glances. Ethan's salute and intervention didn't just restore Walter's comfort, but also his dignity and honor as a man who had sacrificed for his country. The flight continued, but that moment left a deep impression on everyone's hearts, a testament to the power of respect and human solidarity, especially toward unsung heroes like Walter Grayson. Right after Captain Ethan Marshall's solemn salute, the entire cabin fell into a deep silence. Passengers' eyes gradually turned to Walter Grayson with profound respect and gratitude. No longer just an elderly man quietly sitting in a middle seat on the plane, Walter was now seen as a true hero, someone who had sacrificed for his country. Quiet whispers slowly spread like a wave of honor filling the cramped space. Some passengers stood and gave gentle applause as a way to show their appreciation. The clapping grew steadily louder, creating a warm and intimate atmosphere in the cabin. The flight attendants, visibly moved, smiled, and looked at Walter with genuine admiration. In that moment, the boundaries between strangers disappeared, replaced by empathy and respect for a resilient man. Though seated under everyone's attention, Walter remained humble and silent. His eyes shone with deep gratitude, needing no words. This honor was not only for him, but for all soldiers like him, silent heroes who helped preserve peace. The warmth, unity, and respect spread throughout the cabin, transforming the flight from a simple journey into a special moment, a story of kindness and unspoken gratitude. There are heroes whose names need not be remembered. But on that day, aboard Flight 417, everyone remembered him, Walter Grayson, a man who served his country in silence and was finally treated with the respect he deserved. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more moving stories like this.